Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. We're rolling along here, and we have races on the calendar, which is one of our questions for today. But I don't know. How are you coping with all things winter and training for summer races?
I feel like coping might be a correct terminology. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
Lots of stuff going on right now, but all mostly generally good, but definitely hitting that point of like looking at the calendar and feeling as though everything is both like super far away and also happening tomorrow. Right. So it's a little intimidating. But today,
what's coming up with Strong Girl Publishing? What is the next thing going on?
Well, let's see. When this goes live, we will have we've done the Women's Day, the Joyride She Rides at Joyride 150 in Markham earlier in the month. And then I guess actually the day before this episode goes live, we will have done a really cool event with Girls Forward, formerly known as Fast and Female, and the Airy Real Foundation down at the MLSE Launchpad in Toronto with Vanessa Kuhlbeck's Mirror Diaries series. We're calling it the Mirror Moves event. So 50 young girls hanging out at that. I'm so stoked that we get to do really cool things like that. And then we're looking ahead to Mid-South with Marley Blonsky and the Ragtag Best Friends Bicycle Club.
And then I guess Sea Otter after that,
Sea
also
Otter.
with Marley. Yeah, okay. Well, that gives people, if you're at Sea Otter, I know a few people I've sort of mentioned that we're going to be there. So hopefully some connections there, whether you check out that All Bodies on Bikes booth, which I guess you and Marley will be there largely, or we can all connect. And then also we're at Mid-South as well for the full weekend, I guess. So that would be the other event, which sort of I get into our one question about our race schedules and what we're doing. And then as a tease on what else we're talking about, what else are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, another person had a question that's actually kind of almost similar to what we're doing, asking about racing in April, kind of almost in prep for Leadville. And then we have gotten a listener question on what we eat in a day.
Okay. Well,
so
we'll try and add some service and not belabor that, but we'll see.
We are going to try to be exceptionally careful in how we answer that. I'm not going to lie.
Well, honest, but also I think at some point you don't need to watch me make breakfast or something, but we'll see if there's anything there maybe interesting as I sort of round my 40th and things that sort of evolved a little bit and any sort of common themes, again, things that maybe are at least somewhat useful for folks. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes. Okay. Well, our race schedule. I guess I will maybe talk about mine first because I only have 2 events on mine. 3 if you count cyclocross as a whole. 4 if you... Okay. I have many events. I've lied. Nice. I apologize. So yes, as we alluded to, we're both starting our season at Mid-South on the same day, but with different races, which I am really hoping that this format takes off because I think this is so fun. So Mid-South has a 50K. They also have a half marathon that starts on Friday morning, and then the pro race starts at 1 for the 100-mile gravel race. This to me is just such a cool way to bring more communities together. I'm really excited to see how it goes. And for us, it's super fun because it lets us... I know a lot of people will both do the same bike race in a day, but gravel racing makes that sort of hard if you are like us and you have a small dog sitting in your car. Can't do that. I don't know. This format seems really cool to me. I'm excited to see how it goes.
It makes logical sense. I don't know why it hasn't caught on, because definitely people have tried. We've seen it in Ontario where they tried to do cross-country running race or a trail race at a mountain bike race, and it just doesn't seem like the running community gets, I don't know, they don't get told about it, or they're not into it, or the courses aren't quite what it is. And even this one, it's a gravel race, not to criticize Mid-South, as far as I understand, it's largely gravel running. Mm-hmm. So you could see that being a tough one too, but I don't know, maybe that's what they're into down there, but we're going to see. I think for us, like you say, it sort of gets both races out of the way. I think it's going to be a tight, because Molly has to run 50K from 7 a.m. till 1, but my race starts at 1, and then I have to ride 100 miles from between 1 p.m. and dark. Which should be doable, but we'll see. So it just seems like a lot in a day. But.
I've been so tempted. I'm not going to lie to you. They also offer a double where you could do the 50K in the morning and then do the 100 pro gravel race. Mm. And there is a part of me, a nagging little voice that's like, you could totally try to do that.
And they made a pro category this year. I think like Heather Jackson would come to mind. We've had Heather on the podcast there not too long ago, just in the end of 2025. And I think she sort of did that. And I don't know if that's sort of like now inspired by that, or if there's a number of people. I don't know the story behind it, but there is a pro option to do this 50K run and then the 100-mile bike in the same day.
There have been a number of people that have done it when all of the bike races were on Saturday.
Right. Different days.
You could run on Friday and then race on Saturday. I actually love that they moved the pro race to Friday, because I think it really offers, like, it keeps the pros separate, so you kind of avoid a lot of like the issues that have been part of the spirit of gravel debate, we'll say. Mm-hmm. It also allows for this party on Friday where the people who are racing on Saturday can interact with the pros, and then the pros can either be training Saturday, it can just be around. I think there's just a lot of cool options with that. But yes, it has made it so that if you're a pro and you want to run and ride, it's going to be very tight. And I was tempted to do it, but then I realized I would rather absolutely max myself out and like destroy myself in the 50K. Yeah. Because like when you're doing something like that, when you're running a 50K with the knowledge that you have to ride 100 miles after, and that you're going to want to be fast enough to stay on someone's wheel, because otherwise you're going to have a much worse time, you wouldn't be running the 50K very hard, right? Like you'd be running it to be the only probably person in that pro double category. So all you need to do is finish it before 1 p.m.
Well, I don't know. I assume
I think you'd actually, you know what? Your best bet would be to finish it at like 12:30 and literally just do a costume change and get on your bike and go. Like, don't give yourself the like hour cool down or like 2 hour cool down, because then I think you're going to be crampy and tired and fatigue sets in.
I mean, I would have thought that there's people, but maybe it's like a exploratory option this year. Maybe there won't be many people. I'm not sure what type of uptick or the number of people out there like that. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge. You're probably right that there's like a pacing in the running that then would let you sort of just walk into the bike and carry on, and then maybe you try and make up all the time, even if there were other people in the bike. That probably makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but yeah, anyway. It's an exciting week. I think it is, like you say, the amateurs, the age groupers, they get to show up on Friday night, do their registration, go through the expo, but then also see the finish and the awards and stuff potentially for the pro race. So that's, I think, a good format. It makes a lot of sense to me. And then, yeah, the pros maybe can do some expo or something like this on Saturday. So yeah, we're excited for Mid-South.
Yeah. So jazzed about that. And then after that, I don't race again until end of May, where I finally decided I'm going to go back to Sulphur Springs 100-miler. This year, I will, I guess, put it out that my goal is to break the course record and do it pretty well. Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting is I've obviously never redone the same 100-mile course before. So this really opens up a lot of opportunities to really hone stuff that we learned on this course last year. Really take all of that race beta we got, and put it to use. So my coach, David Roche, did Leadville. Then he went back to Leadville the next year, broke his own course record. So I feel like that's kind of we'll call it inspiration for it, is like, while it's tempting to throw another race on the calendar, this one is just such a convenient time, location. We love the people. We love the vibe. Mm-hmm. So why not go back and actually see what happens when I'm looking at the clock and really paying attention to that stuff?
Yeah, and I think in the same way that David acknowledges that it could all go to crap and it could be an embarrassing like walk yourself back out. You've had those. It's not like you've never had an embarrassing walk out of things, so you know what it's really not that bad in the end of it. But you want to give yourself the chance to go and have a great day and a whether it's the record or just another solid win or a podium or a good race. I think those are all great options. But yeah, we have some ideas on how to eke out a little bit. Just your second last lap, I think, is the one we're hoping we can mitigate any of the stuff that was going on there with the heartburn and stuff like that. So we have a couple of tools that you've been sort of like put in place in case that happens again, or how to avoid it in the first place. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I think that'll be really fun. And then hopefully at some point I would like to go back to Killarney to the Close Silhouette Trail, try to go for that FKT. Again, I've written about this ad nauseum for Runner's World. I've talked about it for us. Like, I missed that record and the Sulphur Springs record both by 2 minutes each. So I do think both of those should be well within my grasp, just with a bit more now that I know. So I would like to go back and get that, but that one is very much weather and time permitting, I'm going to say. Yeah. So we're going to like that one's very loosely held. If it fits in, fantastic, but it's not my A goal by any stretch. Right. And then cyclocross season, it's happening. 2026, my year.
Yeah, we'll see. We have our nationals are nearby here at Hardwood Ski and Bike, so that sort of motivated that, and then also just Christie Cross was really fun to go down to in Toronto last year, so we're hoping that'll happen again. I think it's going to happen, so that's sort of big, and then we'll try and pick maybe a couple other ones that we get, maybe one down in the States, and then a couple maybe more local ones. Of course, our local one here near Collingwood. So that's that. And then I don't know, my season is still like sort of here and there, but I'll do our Substance, our local Ontario gravel series, and then after Mid-South, I should back up that I'll do Sea Otter as well, the mountain bike race there. Probably a couple mountain bike races sprinkled in there as well, but that's sort of the season. Nothing super miraculous, but we'll see. I have a new Checkmate from Trek Berry here, the race gravel bike, so I'm hoping that sort of combined with some decent training and the addition of strength training this year with our new gym and squat rack and all this, I'm feeling pretty good. So we'll see how I fare in the gravel series this year.
I have to say, I'm almost insulted that people have been like really surprised by, did you see that story I did the other day where I like just posted, a lot of people are like, there's like a meme going around that was like a conservative woman being like, I never see liberal women in the gym. And I posted a video of doing pull-ups with like, okay, it's because we have our big weights at home.
Okay.
That way we don't have to wait to work in.
Okay.
But it was just me like just doing, like 10 pull-ups or whatever. And people were like, completely kerfuffled by it.
That you could do
that I can
pull-ups?
do that many pull-ups.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
you're
I feel
pretty
like
good
I've
at
been
pull-ups.
doing those pull-ups for a
no,
long time on the internet.
They were solid pull-ups. I saw them.
Thanks, dear. All that to say, I love strength training, and I will say, so my pull-ups had been really falling to the wayside in the last couple years, but definitely having an actual pull-up bar that I'm not worried about breaking a door frame on. I mean, we love a door frame pull-up bar. We still utilize one when we're on the road. It's still fantastic, but there is something about having that actual squat rack and pull-up bar and stuff that like I feel like I'm having such a good time lifting heavy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really look for with the pull-ups discussion is a lot of people just don't have any way to hang or like put their arms over their head. So that is where the doorway pull-up bar or something like that, that's really the first screen when I start with someone. We do a bit of movement, a bit of bike skills, sort of a screen, a checklist, like, can you do this? And really with the pull-up, I'm not even like looking for like, can you do pull-ups like Molly does pull-ups? It's just, is there anything in your home where you can hang? Because obviously your body hasn't, especially as we get older, if you haven't been hanging, then pull-ups are going to be something that's very hard for your body. But yeah, it's a tough one. I think you're a pretty muscular person and a lighter person too. So pull-ups are a little tough. As
per our genetic conversation, was it last week or a few weeks ago anyway? We were talking about our sub-9 Leadville podcast. Right. We talked about the genetic side of things. Apparently another study actually just came out this week that was saying it turns out mortality is significantly more related to genes than we've been led to believe, which seems...
Wasn't that the conclusion when people have the scotch and the cigarettes and stuff? Isn't that what you assume?
Yeah, pretty much.
It wasn't the cigarette and scotch that kept them to living too long?
Yeah. So just unfortunately, another point in the nature column, I think. Not to say you can't move the needle, but it was saying your genes will kind of dictate if you're going to live to around 80, 90, 100, and then your lifestyle stuff can kind of turn it to 70 if you're not living so clean, or 90 if you're living super clean kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, we probably don't know, but that probably makes some intuitive sense.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've derailed us with strength training, but I agree. Strength training has been a major benefit, I think, for both of us as far as training has been concerned. I definitely feel stronger on like hills and stuff. So I'm excited to get out and actually do more elevation when we're on the road.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like I always like, what is the service of us gabbing about this here? I think it's like hopefully we can connect with people when we're at these races. So hopefully we've sort of covered off a race or two that you're doing. We're also looking at doing the OG Gravel Classic, which is the UCI qualifier for gravel in Canada. I think the only one, I think, and it's in June. We haven't signed up for that yet, but we do have a number of people, a number of friends and athletes I work with are going. So we are hoping to go there. We just need to sort of confirm that weekend works in June.
Here's my only fear with that. And actually, it's the same fear I have with Sea Otter. If you race that, it's a qualifier for Worlds. Worlds are in Australia for gravel. Sea Otter is a qualifier for Leadville. How are you feeling with qualifying races?
Yeah, I mean, the gravel one, I mean, it'd be neat to go to Australia. I don't see myself going to Australia this year. So that, like, I think we can just pre-decide that one, and that's like a good one we sort of maybe discuss. The Leadville one, I am having like a slightly harder problem, but I think that's like a no, but we'll see. I haven't like come to terms with that one yet.
Yeah, I think I'm just picturing you if they're handing out the coins, like you being like, yes, I'm totally going to pass this on as you're like holding on to it. just they're like trying to tug it back and you're like, yeah, I definitely don't want this as you like grip it in your hand. I think that's going to be a hard one.
The trouble is the 15 years since I've done it. It's just like one of those round numbers. And then I'm like,
I think what makes me more nervous about it is that I'm an idiot and like my inclination would 100% be like, okay, how quickly can I do a qualifier to get into the run?
Well, if that's the case, then the answer is no.
Oh, I like this. Okay. Good boundary. Good boundary setting there.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's move on there. Did we have there was no other stuff around schedule?
No, that's sort of our main thing. I think what is important is like we looked at a calendar together and put these races on. Like we sat down and it was a couple hours of a bit of back and forth and looking at all of the other stuff we had going on, all the family stuff, friends stuff.
Well, and work stuff, right? Like I have camps which are somewhat complementary, but also do they derail like me planning for things. Like it's weird. Like I was going to say, you are really pushing the limits of like winning and like records and stuff. And so I feel like you're in like a slightly different phase of your athletic development. Like you still get better, right?
We'll say.
Whereas like, I do pretty well, but like I'm not really, we've talked about this before, like me going to Leadville would be like pushing my limits again, or like trying to race elite would be like really pushing my limits. But for me to race locally, not that I'm going to win, I don't expect to win a lot of these things anymore. But you know, I like training, and it sort of gives me like a test, and we get out and see people, and I get to see athletes that I coach, often doing really well, and that's great to see them in person. So for me, it's like I enjoy the day to day and like pushing myself in the race a little bit, but it's sort of like, I guess it's masters racing ultimately, right? Like this is not like so sometimes it's like I'm not, there isn't like a massive crown jewel of a race in my season. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not like picking that, but then at the same time, it's like, I think that's a lot of people I coach too, or there's lots of these races. We've talked about the A-B categorization and how that sort of falls apart sometimes when it's like, there just maybe isn't that like Leadville,
right? Yeah.
Like all in, you know, monk mode race. Like, I guess that's it, is like, I don't need to go into monk mode for any of these. Like, I don't intend to go into full monk mode. I just sort of keep it level and like pretty good.
Which we will get into momentarily as well, actually. But yes, I think the nature of ultra, you're right. I am still going for these big things, but also the nature of 100 miles is I don't want to do 2 in a season. I don't want to do 3 in a season. Mm-hmm. So I think like, I basically have to have that a goal only because you can only do, your body can't, I hate the recovery from them. So I really don't want to do more than one.
Well, and you want to do it at a certain level, but yeah, like you shouldn't probably go into really like a lot of these, I would say marathons probably similar. You shouldn't go in super underprepared because it is damaging to your body, but also like, it is a lot of time and energy. You may as well go in like prepared, but it's just like to finish a 100 miler, like there is a requisite amount of conditioning you require too. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get into our question that's related to race day or race calendar planning, quick word from our sponsors over at Payable. So this is the Google Form add-on that lets you take payments in a Google Form. It's what I used at the Joyride event. That's what I'm using at pretty much any of my Stronger Publishing events because it's made it so easy to just create this QR code short link that people can just do their whole checkout on in person. I haven't needed to get one of these, fancy square reader tap things. So it has made my life so easy, and doesn't mean that I need to create a whole other website or a whole other thing. It connects to PayPal, Square, Stripe, all of your usual payment platforms. And in 10 minutes, you have a Google form that can take money.
So you can find out all about that. If you just visit our link and our site, you can see sort of like the different templates we like. And that site again is
payableapps.com/athlete. And we'll include a link to that in the show notes. Okay, our scheduling question, which is actually comical given the Sea Otter Leadville debate that we're having. So this person got our Leadville plan to get her motivated to get up and train, and planning to finish the Leadville Trail 100 on their second attempt. Last year, they had a tough go, ended up sick mid-race, had to drop out. So this is second time. We're back. We're going for it. The question is, for the April race, is it going to be too early to race at Sea Otter? So they just started training. This is early February when they sent this. So February, say 1st, they started training in earnest for this. So is Sea Otter an unrealistic race to put on the schedule? Hashtag it depends.
Yeah. And I wish I sort of knew where this person lives. Like, you assume because they had what seems like it was probably altitude sickness at the top of Columbine, the highest point in Leadville. It's very high. What is it? It's like
10,000?
No. The town's at 10,000. This is at 12,200. I think that's correct. So it's very high. And then you're really exerting yourself. Some people are 2 hours to get to the top of this thing, and you're going from 10,000 to 12,000. So it gets very difficult for everyone, increasingly difficult as you continue to increasingly work harder and harder and longer. So I would say there's definitely, if you're going back, we need to start figuring out ways that if we were to bet if you're going to get through that successfully, we would bet that you'd be successful. So I love thinking about this, we're just making a bet. So what are some ways that we could improve the odds that you're going to get through that? There's a bit of random chance. It was a bad day or whatever, or the temperature was higher or whatever, these things. But we need to think about ways to make your fitness better, just your physiology, your threshold, whatever you want to call it. So getting riding is a good one. And then I would say in that race execution performance, we can call this, on a day you show up and you deal with the nerves, you deal with the fueling, you deal with the pacing, because we know fueling and pacing are things that can influence how that tolerance to altitude goes, right? The fitness helps because it gives you range. When you're climbing up a mountain, you have more watts to get up the mountain. You're not maxed out. You're hopefully under some sort of threshold, some sort of thing between getting a headache and bonking and blowing up and not being able to continue and continuing, right? So we know the fittest people go fast and they can stay at a lower percentage of their threshold, their fitness, to move forward, right? But the lower fitness, if you think about someone coming off a couch, for them to pedal a bicycle, they're almost maxed out, right? That's why they can only ride, maybe not for any distance. And then we get fitter and fitter and fitter. So this person, we need to get you riding. So great that you're on the plan and that you're starting to get rolling. But I think what we also want to think about is pressure testing on a race day. How does the fueling work? Can you get through a race at lower altitude or no altitude like Sea Otter? Can you fuel? Can you get through the race successfully? So I would say for this person, it's going to be a carrot to get training for 2-3 months. And then it's going to pressure test these other elements like fueling and pacing and see, is that a factor?
Yeah. I would say my caveat, though, would be if, unless Sea Otter's in their backyard. So if this is, is a race that they really want to go to because they need to be at Sea Otter for work, or they just really want to go to Sea Otter, then I totally understand that. But if we're just kind of picking a race and you're picking Sea Otter just kind of because it's a lifetime race, I would actually look at what kind of races are happening in and around, say, Boulder or Golden or one of these places that actually is at altitude in April. Yeah. There's going to be snow in Leadville. There's not really anything happening at high altitude in April, but I bet you there's some lower key racing happening at medium altitude. In and around
April is early, and this plan, there's lots of people from Colorado who use this plan, and all around the world who use this. The Leadville plan, it starts in January. A lot of people like it because it's that full New Year's New Year's here, and then it's 8 months to the race day approximately, and it takes you. So it is a popular plan, I think, because of that. I don't want to give away the secret, but that it does seem like around the New Year, people are like hungry for these pre-made plans, and this one sort of is specific. You get into Leadville around that time is when the lottery is, and then you go. Now, it doesn't really include races until, I think I should have looked beforehand, but it's either May or June. There's like opportunity to add a race, and this is where a lot of people would do qualifiers. A lot of them happen in that time.
Yeah, I think my thought was just like, why are we picking sea otter? Like, what makes that attractive? And if it's just kind of a random choice, then is there actually a more like close to Leadville, not time-wise, but like similar to Leadville altitude race? If altitude really is our limiter, it's probably better to actually try that again.
I would say that this person probably wants to do a couple of races to just keep pressure testing it. So it could be that this one is the first test and it's at early so that you do your winter training, you get your butt on the trainer, whatever you have to do. And then, but don't hold it too close to like that it has to be perfect or anything. And then I would definitely, if you can, get to something that's at altitude if you can, or at least super hot, or just something that's going to have a bit of environmental challenge in it as well, to see, again, just sort of pressure test. And back to that betting idea, like when you get to that altitude, like one of the ways that you would bet that someone's going to get through it is that they've got through it before or something like it. So that's when I'm talking to people about Leadville. It's like, have you done a race at altitude before? Oh, okay. You've done Breck Epic, or you've done the Leadville Silver Rush 50 mile. Oh, okay. That's great. And you were okay. Okay. That's good. And you fueled. Okay. Yeah. You took something in and you could ride technically and this type of thing. Right. So and then you get a time off of that. You did 50 miles in 6 hours. Okay. Well, that's not bad. It's like a pretty hard 50 miler, and like, okay, and you're going to train a bit harder, and okay, maybe you could finish in under 12 hours to do double the distance. So you can start betting on people in that way. But if you don't have any information, or the person has never trained or never done a race or never been to altitude or never consumed carbohydrates while riding, or doesn't mountain bike currently, these are the things where some of these goals are probably better when we start looking at these 2 years goals, where we've talked about a few people we've worked with where they've actually become mountain bikers to do something like Leadville. Like they didn't mountain bike, they were rode maybe a bit of gravel, and then they had to get a mountain bike, had to do some mountain bike racing, and then ease into the whole discussion of altitude. And for those people, it has been going like Molly did. Molly went the year before and did the Leadville Marathon run to qualify for the following year Leadville 100. We've had people do the camp, which I think guarantees your entry into it as well, but also gets you a pre-ride of the course and some time at altitude and up at Columbine. So there's lots of ways to go about this, but that would be the things I would sort of start chipping away at. But to the question, lots of people will get ready 3 months and then do a race. Like, I don't think there's a reason you can't go to the Sea Otter, but like Molly says, unless that's like the qualifier you're using for Leadville, or it's just close to your home or work, I guess would be the other thing. You're in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully that it depends answer helps.
But I think that like you should race. Like I think sometimes
definitely, yeah.
It's sort of like what Molly and I were talking about, where there's like the bucket list and Molly's just going to do her 100 miler. You can do it. Someone like in some of these long races, something like, I guess Unbound might be sort of like this for a lot of people, where there's not really a ton of group tactics required. Obviously group riding is going to be beneficial, but there's a lot of people that's a bit of a solo journey. So you don't necessarily have to do a lot of racing beforehand if you don't want to. You can simulate a lot of the demands of that race because it's more and more just a physiological, navigational, can you keep food in your mouth? Can you keep the tires rolling? You can go and do a 10-hour ride or a 7-hour ride or a 5-hour ride, whatever length of ride you think you need to do Unbound, and be pretty close to the demands of that race day. But the more other stuff that starts getting, that's where the races are really beneficial. And I would say even for Unbound, it's just hard to motivate sometimes, like these larger efforts, and you do get the race day nerves and you have to do it on this day, and yes, maybe draft people as well. So there are benefits to the race, but I think some types of racing and some people really benefit from those pre-races, those practice races, the sea races.
For sure. Love a seagull around here. Love a seagull.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like, again, the idea of like the environment, right? Like you want to be an animal dropped into the Leadville environment that thrives, not just gets eaten alive instantly, not to use graphic
Yikes.
things, but that's what happens, right? Is like if you're not used to mountain biking or dirt or riding around people or altitude, like just that environment, every one of those things, how many of those things can we put on your side that you are familiar with them? You might not be able to do altitude, but maybe you can do mountain biking and riding with people and fueling and these types of things, right?
And really, Sea Otter actually probably is a pretty similar course in terms of like combination of dirt, like the kind of double track, little bit of...
I get similar vibes of like feeling like I'm in the middle of nowhere, which makes no sense because there's a massive racetrack with like 100,000 people like just over the next hill. But you do get that like... I am, as someone who's from like lowland, like...
I get claustrophobic in the mountains. I know that sounds nuts, but I think you get the same feeling.
Yeah, I have had the same feeling at Sea Otter as I have at Leadville, for sure. It's like not quite the same mountains, but yeah, same feeling of like just I'm lost.
Yeah.
Even though there's a course marker, I'm lost.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that helps. All right. Last question. We're not going to take too long answering this, but we did get asked if we're comfortable sharing, what do we eat in a day? So obviously, caveat being do not take what we do and apply it to your own life. We have very different lives. But I think people are interested in this, so we wanted to share.
Well, and maybe I was trying to think, is there concepts there? And I think the things we sort of look at is, you could call it the athlete's plate, or Precision Nutrition has thing that's sort of like a checklist for the 5 things that you should think about with your meals. There's some great stuff in Built to Move from Kelly Starrett and Juliet Starrett, who I think AC Shelton actually came out with her sort of including a lot of vegetables in your meals, and even you could measure those as her system. But the idea that like when we go into a meal, it's sort of like, where are the vegetables or the fiber or the fruits? Where are the carbohydrates? Where are the fat? Where is the protein? And then are you eating slowly, like not sort of in a rush sort of thing? And so that's something that I find is useful. The athlete's plate is sort of similar, and the way it works is like looking at your plate. Is there a protein portion, a carbohydrate portion, a fiber, or vegetable or fruit portion? And that's sort of the athlete's plate. And the athlete's plate evolves. The size of the percentage of the plate, if you will, changes a little bit. If it's a heavy training day, there's half the plate is like rice or carbohydrate. On a lighter training day, there's just like maybe a quarter of it is the rice or the thing. So I think that's something that both of us sort of gravitate towards and use. Like,
yeah, I think we work pretty hard to blend what we know is good for general health and longevity. So a lot of that fiber, the lean proteins, all that fun stuff, with the fact that we are, in fact, endurance athletes who train pretty heavily, which means there is a lot more wiggle room for and need for a lot of simple carbs. So it's definitely a balancing act to make sure we're getting both the health and the fuel that we need. So I guess, should we work through a day? And I get the other thing. So you mentioned monk mindset at the beginning, and this is this common thing you hear athletes say at the beginning of seasons or whatever, like, okay, I'm in monk mode now, which is very just like monastic.
I think Frank Overton I don't know if he coined the phrase, but he applied it to cycling. I think that's where I stole it from, at least. But like before the big race, like you've cut out the alcohol and you're like really like tight on everything, right? You're going to bed on time. And so I think it's a useful thing, but it quickly becomes people do it all the time and like way more than Uncle Frank was intending you to do it.
Yeah. So I think we should say, I think neither of us really get into that mode even when our big races are coming up. Like, yes, both of us, I'd say for a big A race, won't drink for a couple nights before the race. But that's pretty much the only thing I'm changing. I actually consider it like much more dangerous to start thinking about cutting anything out. If anything, before a race, because I run ultra distance, like I'm thinking about, can I add in more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not holding back. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's shocking. Like I know David, your coach, when he did the Leadville, like he said, like I think he had like takeout burgers like every night of the week beforehand, and it wasn't for health, but like he feels like, especially before the thing, like giving your body like lots of protein and this sort of thing. So we don't need to go too far down that, but it's sometimes shocking that it's like, oh wow, like they had junk food the whole week or something. So you do have to like sort of put that into context for who and what they're doing and what they're preparing.
So yeah, we're not talking about what we eat race week or anything like that. We're talking about just kind of your average training day. So we both have pretty similar breakfasts. Peter is our excellent breakfast chef, so coffee always. And then Peter makes eggs with spinach. He does more eggs than I do. I throw cheese on mine though. And then I usually do some potatoes. You've been doing more of my sourdough bread that you use as toast.
Yep. With peanut butter usually. And then what I usually do is, again, from that athlete's plate perspective, if it's like a interval day or a longer day, then I'll have more pieces of toast, and I'll usually add honey to the toast as well. But the eggs and the spinach just stay the same. So like the plate gets bigger, I guess. I don't know if the percentage changes, or I guess the percentage would change, but there's like more food when it's a heavier day.
Yeah. And I swap potatoes for toast when I have a longer or heavier day.
Right. So you do that usually twice a week. And so that's like something that's really changed. I would say, like I say, when I turned 40, I like questioned everything, but definitely something I think it timed well with like all this like carbohydrate revolution and things, but also just awareness of red S. And previously I think I got too far down this like pathway of thinking that like, yeah, like you needed, I still think you need vegetables, but like to monk mode, I would say probably most people who know me would agree with that. And so that's something that I was like at 40, I was like, maybe I just need to like question everything in my life. And that was one thing that I was like, you know what, I think I need to like have more variety, but also make sure that if I want to perform and train at the level that I still do, that I need more of that. So I was like, you were making this sourdough bread hot off the pandemic. And I was like, well, I guess we'll just try that out. So that was.
I forgot we used to buy your fancy gluten-free bread.
Yeah, and maybe that was like how we edged into that. And then I was like, I think you were like, this is way too expensive. So we decided to do that. So that's something that I found worked really well. It gets that more calories in the morning, more carbohydrate in the morning. But I still can maintain lots of vegetables and protein, which I still think is important. I just sort of like eat more basically, and more carbohydrate for sure. And previously it would have been like sweet potato and maybe even sweetening the sweet potato. Like it's not like there was no carbohydrate. It was just more of that. And so now my sweet potatoes would actually be more on my lighter day. Like today was Monday, so I had sweet potato with eggs today, for example, and didn't have toast.
Yeah. And then we both tend to work out mid-morning. We both fuel those workouts appropriately. We've talked about that ad nauseum, so I won't give that a ton of space other than to say we've both prioritized the fueling of the workouts in the last couple of years. I'd say you're better at it than I am, but I am working on it. I'm a work in progress when it comes to fueling the workouts.
And certainly, like I think everyone, if they're honest, like that's evolved so much in the last whatever number of years you're willing to admit, but like two plus years. I think everyone's doing a bit more of that now and trying to do that. So I think with the athletes I work with who are masters in 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, these are people where, yeah, we're trying to be brave and just like even that 1 or 2 interval workouts, like even though it's only an hour, can we add some sugar powder, or some people it'll only be a banana or whatever they're willing to do. But rather than nothing, trying something, and something every hour is, I think, a pretty useful rule of thumb, at least to edge into it and see. And I always say you can try it for 2 weeks and then see, you know, if it doesn't work, go back to not doing it. But that's something that's certainly evolved. And I'll say that like often, like I'll end up having like a banana or something even before I get into that workout, or sometimes even just like a Cliff Bar or something. Just because sometimes I end up not getting on my bike before lunch, or I leave it too late because we have breakfast fairly early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm pretty picky about timing my workouts so that I can have lunch as my post-workout meal. And for me, that is always, and I actually have the article I did on our site where I showed the food scale and actually measuring out servings of things. So I do 2 servings of frozen blueberries, a serving of Greek yogurt. I like the 2% fat. It's like the creamiest while still getting a lot of protein in there. And then I use maple syrup. And it's delicious. And then I have that with a couple pieces of toast.
Sure. I just have like cereal, but there's like usually some whey protein mixed in there. And
some berries you put for
for sure. Blueberries and nuts, and sometimes not butter, but usually I try and do nuts. And again, just trying to get variety where like there'd be something different, like whatever, like we've had hemp seeds, or we've had different things. We are trying now not doing the like fake milks, and we've gone back to like normal milk to see, what do we notice with that? Just again, because trying to question everything we thought. But yeah, Molly was like, you're mixing whey protein into almond milk, so this seems like an expensive way to make milk. So we're just sort of being open to questioning that. I still use the whey protein just to get more protein. But yeah, just being open to that and trying it. So we'll see. If I start getting acne everywhere, then we can go back, but we'll see.
It's true.
On my like more rest days, I'll try and do something like sardines or things like this too, but I don't know how often I'm actually successful with that. But something that's like more of a, what you might think of as like a healthy lunch. I might like not have a post-workout cereal on some of those rest days, but it sort of depends how often that happens.
Yes. And then dinner, we usually both try to have a snack in the afternoon. Again, you're more successful at this than I am.
And that might just be like apple and like some leftover, whatever. If there's like leftover chicken, like it's not fancy. I often say like walk out with like a handful of chicken and apple or something.
And I do need to prioritize that more. I'm fully aware. But then we usually have dinner pretty early. So like 6:30. And that's very vegetable protein heavy. We do,
and we use a covered pan for pretty much all. So it's like a big
Literally
frying pan, not a wok, but like wok-ish with a top. And then we sort of put the meat in, and then we put a bunch of vegetables in, and then usually we'll have either like sweet potatoes or rice with that. And again, sort of that athlete's plate idea, like days that it's a lighter training day, we might do more like big salad with like a ton, like chicken on it or whatever. But yeah, that's sort of like a lot of our meals are just like that pan. So insert the protein, lots of vegetables. So we do a lot of like kale boiled down or fried down or whatever that is. It was sort of like steamed down, I guess, in this covered pan. But yeah, and then we might do like a certain type of spices, or we might do just to mix it up, right? To like, it's sort of like protein, vegetables. What's the carb? It's cooked in like an olive oil usually. We do a lot of guac. Molly makes a guacamole on the side that we just sort of add as a topping or not. And then, yeah, like I do a lot of hot sauces.
It is extremely boring. Like, it's so funny because at my parents, they're always making just like really ludicrous meals, to be honest. Like, it's always a specific thing, right? Dad's always trying a new recipe. Mom's like, it's a very specific meal. And we are so much more, it's almost the same thing every night, just slightly seasoned differently. And just it's great because there's just not a lot of thought that has to go into it.
No, and I think with a lot of families, like we'll deal with like there's the kids' food, and maybe your spouse is on a vegetarian thing and you want to have meat or whatever, and so we're just pretty open to that. Where like I'll a lot of times add like broccoli sprouts and arugula on top of whatever because you usually make dinner, like on top of it, right? And because you made like kale and some tomatoes and the guac and meat, and that's the thing. And I'm like, well, I would like to have arugula and broccoli sprouts so I can say that I had more vegetables today or something. And it's okay, great, way you go, right? And so that's sort of like you can always add. So in the same way that like you might add a chicken breast or you might add cheese to, like you said, you add cheese to your eggs, right? So it's this thing where I know that's like a barrier for a lot of people where it's like, how do I customize this to my athletic needs or my health preferences or my tolerance for dairy or whatever the situation is? I think we can be open that like it's easy to do these little customizations. It could be a very bland meal because one person doesn't like spice, and then you get a big thing of Frank's hot sauce and you throw it on, or whatever it is that you like for condiments.
Okay. And then the last big thing, the dessert, the after dinner, the wine, the alcohol question. I think this is one that reminds me so much of reading like old triathlete magazines when you'd read the what you eat in a day, and then it'd be like 7 p.m. I have my square of dark chocolate and I go to bed. And unfortunately, you're actually kind of not that far off of that now that I said that in a really sarcastic voice. You're the person I hated when I was reading those back when I was 21. But we wanted to make sure that we talked about this stuff because I think it's very easy to like assume that we exist in this monk mode.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, hopefully there's like some takeaway here, but it's like, yeah, you would do the MTV Cribs like day in a life of like, yeah, the one piece of broccoli you have for dinner or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully this is approaching honesty, but yeah, we usually have a bit of dessert afterwards.
We do, in fact, have a bit of dessert afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of seasonal Reese's. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to our audience, Peter. Only
Molly has a large stock of Reese's, like variety. Yeah, like the trees and the eggs.
The key is you have to go the day after the holiday and stock up on the 50% off.
Yeah. So there's that, and then yeah, we'll have the odd bit of ice cream or something like that. You like having ice cream afterwards. I do have dark chocolate, although it's gotten so expensive. I would say the cheap side of me just is like, I guess we don't do dessert anymore. It's too expensive.
We cannot keep up with your dessert habit because you have way too fancy of tastes. The fact is, I've tried cutting it out, and I feel like absolute crap. Like that is how I get in the extra calories that I need to do the work that I do. Could I probably time them better and like do XYZ to avoid dessert? Sure. Do I want to do that? No.
Yeah. So we do that, and then a lot of days we actually do have alcohol, which I guess is the like big reveal or something. Yeah. But what we try and do is like we don't usually drink alone, which I think is a general good practice, and we try and keep the serving portions reasonable, so not a whole bottle of wine. And yeah, we usually don't watch TV. We usually like talk while we do it, sort of after dinner, after we've cleaned up, we sort of do that. So that's sort of like a routine we do. And we try and have at least one day of the week for sure that we don't have alcohol. So that might just be like we book a evening talk or something like that. We wouldn't, drink at work necessarily. Necessarily. It depends what type of work you do.
Look.
Yeah, so that's what we do. I don't know if there's like any other big things, but yeah, we just try and make it like where we're like more trying to get some of the sociological benefits of alcohol consumption, because certainly there isn't like health benefits, but trying to be like, this is something where we're just sort of like a routine where we're also embedding like having conversations about the day and our relationship and so forth. So yeah, I think that we try and make it as much of a positive as we can.
Yeah, and that is not the answer for everyone.
No, and I think in our 40s, I think as we get to like, you would have to expect as you get older and older, your tolerance is going to drop for that. I certainly see that most of the people I coach have really curtailed or eliminated as they get older, right? So
I'd say even maybe a few years ago when we would go out or something or over to a friend's or whatever, I would maybe have 2 glasses of wine or 2.5 or verging on 3. Like I would never have 3 glasses of wine. Even 2 is like almost never would I do that, because then I know I wake up feeling way worse. But I currently do not have any ill effects from a glass, so I'm okay with that.
Yep. So that's that. I don't know if there's any other nutrition things, but again, hopefully that idea makes sense, that we sort of try and put a bunch of the calories earlier. We try and fuel the work. So that's both before, during, and then afterwards. We try and think about adding like, where is the vegetables? That's what I see a lot of times with people, is there just aren't really any vegetables across the day, which is generally like adding vegetables is going to be good. However, whatever good is that you're looking for. Any other things there? Like we try and have protein at each meal, which again sort of fits with like anything like you're really seeing is to increase protein.
No, I think like we're very not fancy, honestly. And I do think it's funny. I never really you always read that recommendation of at the grocery store, you shop the perimeter. And I would say we've gotten more and more into that over the years.
Perhaps. I don't know. Like,
some of that might just be that we have subscribe and save going for the cereal.
I see the pushback on that though too, right? Because it is like things like canned chickpeas we get, and
for
like
sure.
the sardines, and
right. Fair enough.
There's like lots of stuff. I always find like, I guess that's like a good, useful. Like,
I think it's a good starting point. Like, where do I spend the most time in the grocery store? It's in the produce section.
I wonder how many grocery stores have tried to disrupt that though, and just like,
oh, funny.
Yeah, now the fruits are in the middle.
Well, certainly my parents, the one by my parents, shout out to the ShopRite in Clinton, New Jersey, where their soda section is just like on the perimeter in the back, and they have like this whole spare like back room for the dairy or something. I don't know. It's very weird. At any rate, hopefully that's a little bit helpful. It's very much just a balance, I think, and prioritizing joy and food too.
Yeah, and when I think about what people go through with, like, again, trying to get the fuel for, they're a young kid who's trying to eat a lot, but their family doesn't eat a lot because they don't do a lot of exercise. So it is like, well, how do we feed this kid? So it is like, well, you need to pretend like you have a second kid or another kid and like feed them, but give that to this other kid who's trying to fuel their performance and grow and everything else. And then similarly, right, like again, like you can add vegetables to anything. Like I love like arugula and these things. You can cut up a tomato and just put it on the side of anything. I eat a lot of like whole carrots, like just as snacks. Like there's lots of ways you can add these things to anything, right? Like, so even when we have pizza, you didn't even talk about that. Like the pizza we have most Fridays before your long run, because that's what you usually have before your race. So we have that, finishes off the week with like a nice, we're getting pizza. A lot of times I'll add arugula to that, and maybe I'll have a carrot, and maybe I'll have whatever, right? Like you can sort of like customize it to whatever you need within what your family's doing. Otherwise, you don't need like a special meal per se.
100%. That's really all I can think of. And then obviously during the day, we're both attempting to drink enough water, which is always a tricky proposition when you're working and training and all that, but we both keep it pretty high priority. I drink a lot of herbal tea just to during the winter when it's 0, negative whatever degrees outside. Very helpful because it's hard to drink enough cold water during the day.
Okay, good.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up there. Hit us up with any questions, comments, etc. over at consummateathlete.com. We have an anonymous question form in the show notes, or you can also find us on Instagram at consummateathlete. All right. Happy training, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.